blank. Me the characteristics of all things apart from nothingness and being, oneness and otherness, both and neither, neither existing nor not existing, neither permanent nor impermanent, not attained or practiced by any dogmatists, accessed by first hand. Ultimate knowledge, without the imposition of imagined characteristics, peculiar or common, the manifestation of the actuality of ultimate truth, marked by progressive purification through investigation of the stages, defining entry into the stage of those who reach reality, effortlessly carrying out past vows in endless forms like a wish-fulfilling gem, manifesting distinction of ways in the range of subjective mental objects, such that I and other great bodhisattvas without views of peculiarity or commonality of imagined natures in such matters as these, having quickly realized perfect enlightenment, may enable all people to fulfill all virtues. The Blessed One said, "Good, good, Mahamati, it is good of you indeed that you think this should be asked. You have undertaken to benefit many people, Mahamati, for the happiness of many people, out of compassion for the world, for the welfare, benefit and happiness of the great body of the living, of celestials and humans. So listen, Mahamati, and take it to heart accurately and aptly, I will tell you." "Very good, Blessed One," said Mahamati, and listened to the Blessed One. The Blessed One said to him, "Because of failure to understand the content of their own objects of thought, Mahamati, and through immersion in various external things, immature people construct imaginations through immersion in imagination caused by residual impressions of ideas of inherent nature as non-existent or existent, oneness or otherness or both, neither existing nor not existing, permanent or impermanent. That is like the way wild animals, imagining there to be water in a mirage, burning in the summer heat, run for it in a desire to drink, not knowing there is no water here because they don't realize it is a false impression of a notion in their own minds. In the same way, Mahamati, immature ordinary people, their minds under the influence of beginningless imagination of various projected fictions, intellects burned by the fires of desire, animosity and delusion, desirous of various material objects, based on views of origin, abiding, and dissolution, unfamiliar with the nullity of internal and external things, fall into grasping oneness and otherness, non-existence and existence. That is like the way the conception of a city in reference to a siren's city that is not a city occurs to the unenlightened, and the form of a city is a view that comes from immersion in the seminal idea of a city, impressed on the mind since beginningless time, and that city is neither a city nor not a city. In the same way, Mahamati, those who have always been immersed in impressions of doctrines consisting of conceptual fictions projected by religion and philosophy become engrossed in doctrines of oneness or otherness, existence or non-existence, their minds not having ascertained that these are only objects of subjective thought. That, Mahamati, is like someone asleep who in a dream goes into the king's palace in a country graced with women, men, elephants, horses, carriages, pedestrians, villages, cities, towns, cattle and buffalo, woods, parks, various mountains, rivers, and ponds, and then wakes up. Even when awake, he may remember the king's palace of that country. What do you think of that, Mahamati? Would that person be a savant for recalling that variety in the dream, which doesn't actually exist? He said, "No, Blessed One." The Blessed One said, "In the same way, Mahamati, immature people, bitten by false notions, with dogmatic mentalities, do not realize it is because of the existence of subjective mental objects equivalent to dreams that they have recourse to notions of oneness and otherness, non-existence and existence. Just as places neither low nor high depicted by an artist are imagined low and high by children, in the same way, Mahamati, in the future they will be filled with specific imaginations based on residual impressions of hallowed views. Those who are engrossed in doctrines of oneness, otherness, both, or neither, are themselves lost, and others who speak of non-origination apart from extremes of being and non-being they will call nihilists. They will call them deniers of cause and effect. who have eliminated the good side of cause by a bad view, they will say that those who seek higher meaning should keep far away from them. And, with minds lit upon notions of self, other, and both, minds lit upon wrong notions of attribution and denial, imagining existence and non-existence, they will wind up in hell. That, Mahamati, is like the case of people with dim vision who, having seen an optical illusion, tell each other, "This is wonderful, this is wonderful. You all should look." The optical illusion is not existent or non-existent, because of neither of these occurring, as it is perception without vision. In the same way, Mahamati, those whose minds are immersed in the constructions of hallowed false notions, immersed in doctrines of oneness or otherness, or both or neither, of the extremes of being and non-being, who repudiate true teaching, will cause themselves and others to fall into ruin. That, Mahamati, is like the fact that a circle made by a torch is not a circle, yet is imagined as a circle by the ignorant, not by savants. In the same way, Mahamati, those who have fallen into a way of thinking in which erroneous notions are hallowed will imagine the origination of all things in terms of oneness or otherness, both or neither. It is like the fact that when it rains the drops of water appear like crystal gems, and then children run to it, convinced there are crystal jewels there. Those drops of water, Mahamati, are not jewels, yet not jewels, due to apprehension without apprehending. In the same way, Mahamati, those whose minds are under the influence of impressions of imagination based on hallowed opinions will describe origination of the non-existent by conditions, as well as the annihilation of the existent. Furthermore, Mahamati, having made objections to the three components of proof, they will imagine the object of first-hand attainment by ultimate knowledge, free from two natures, is a thing recognized by its own nature. But the concept of existence and non-existence, Mahamati, does not occur to practitioners who have recourse to a mental revolution of thought, intellect, and consciousness, who no longer imagine subjective mental objects as apprehended or apprehending, who have reached first-hand ultimate knowledge in the stage of those who arrive at reality. If, Mahamati, grasping of existence or non-existence of such objects occurred to practitioners, that would be attributing identity, development, person, and personality to them. Any instruction, moreover, Mahamati, defining particular and common natures of things is instruction by projected Buddhas, not instruction of the Buddha of reality. Instruction, moreover, Mahamati, is aimed at what the unenlightened see in their sleep. It does not reveal the abode of bliss of concentration of first-hand understanding of ultimate knowledge of the principle of inherent nature to which objection is made. It is like the reflection of a tree appearing in water, it is neither a reflection nor not a reflection, because it is not shaped exactly like the shape of the tree. In the same way, Mahamati, those with hallowed notions ingrained in their imagination, not having ascertained that they are only objects of their own minds, will imagine oneness or otherness, both or neither, non-existence or existence. It is like the reflections of all forms in a mirror appear like their counterparts, defined by their own distinction. They are not the forms reflected, but not the forms, because of the perception of forms where there are no forms. Thus too, Mahamati, those imaginations of subjective mental objects appear to the unenlightened as reflected forms. Just so, Mahamati, the reflections of subjective thought appear in the form of notions of oneness, otherness, both, and neither. Just as an echo is heard as it occurs through a combination of a person calling and the wind, and it neither exists nor does not exist because it comes from hearing a voice without the presence of a voice, in the same way, Mahamati, there appear imaginations constructed of impressions of subjective thought, notions of non-existence and existence, oneness and otherness, both and neither. It is like waves of a mirage, shimmering in the sun in a place devoid of grasses, shrubbery, vines, and woods. The waves of the mirage are not existent, but they are not non-existent either, considering the capacity of their allure to confuse. In the same way, Mahamati, the imaginative consciousness of the unenlightened stymied by distorted impressions of conceptual elaboration since beginningless time, is made to move to and fro like a mirage, as if origination, abiding, dissolution, oneness, otherness, both, neither, nonexistence, and existence were the content of first-hand ultimate knowledge. Just as a zombie may make movements even though it is not a living being, through connection with a demon, and the unenlightened get engrossed in untrue imagination on account of the coming and going, in the same way, Mahamati, unenlightened people fallen into hallowed modes of thinking based on erroneous notions adhere to doctrines of oneness and otherness. That is attribution of unreal existence. Therefore, Mahamati, one should abandon the notions of origination, abiding, dissolution, oneness, otherness, both, neither, non-existence, and existence as actual first-hand ultimate understanding. So it is said. Like reflections of trees in water are the clusters, consciousness the fifth. Being like illusions, dreams, objects of perception are not to be imagined by representation. This is like a visual illusion, mistaking a mirage for water, contemplating the triple world as like dream illusion, one become free. Like a mirage shimmering in summer, fooling the mind. Which animals take to be drinkable water though no actual substance is found here. In the same way a seed of consciousness stirs in the field of ideas, the unenlightened take it to be growing, like the dim-sighted do the dark. The cover of grasping things in beginningless repetition the unenlightened one should remove. Like taking a wedge to a wedge. Like magic, a zombie, a robot, a dream, a lightning strike, always moving quickly seeing the world with the three continuities cut off, one is liberated. For here there is no representation at all, as of mirages in the sky, discerning things thus, one does not assert anything at all. Representation is only names, this is not there as described. The clusters are illusory appearances, wherein, however, that is imagined. Thought, illusion, magic, a dream, and a castle in the air. A fire wheel and a mirage the non-existent appears to humans. Eternal or impermanent, and oneness, or both, or neither, as well from beginningless harmful attachments the unenlightened conceive, deluded. In a mirror, in water, in the eye, and in ornaments and jewels. An object is seen though there is no such object anywhere in them. The appearance of things, likewise, is thought. Like a mirage in the sky seen in various forms, like the son of a barren woman in a dream. Furthermore, Mahamati, the teaching of those who arrive at reality is free in four ways. It is beyond extremes of oneness, otherness, both, and neither, it is free from attribution and denial in terms of non-existence and existence. The teaching of those who arrive at reality, Mahamati, follows the process of liberation by the path of extinction of unreal conditional origination. The teaching of those who arrive at reality is not connected to the inherent existence of nature or God, causality or spontaneity, atoms or time. Furthermore, Mahamati, in order to clear the two obstacles of afflictions and objects of knowledge, they set people in 108 states without images, like the procession of a caravan leader, an inaccurate distinction of the vehicles, stages, and branches of enlightenment. Also, Mahamati, meditation is of four kinds. What are the four kinds? They are meditation practiced by the unenlightened, meditation examining meaning, meditation focused on reality as such, and the fourth is meditation arrived at reality as such. What is meditation practiced by the unenlightened? It is that of practitioners of the disciplines of listeners and solitary illuminates, following immersion in the selflessness of personality, the characteristics of impermanence, misery, and impurity of accumulation of images of particularity and commonality of things. Seeing this as such and not otherwise, proceeding gradually to the extinction of cognition, hence it belongs to the unenlightened. Then what, Mahamati, is meditation examining meaning? Having negated particularity and commonality in selflessness of personality, the self, other, and both of those who hallow externals, meditation examining meaning pursues examination of the meaning of the Selflessness of phenomena and the characteristics of the stages of enlightenment. What is meditation focused on reality as such? Based on the truth of the distinction of the twofold selflessness of the imaginary, abstention from imagination, I call focus on reality as such. What is meditation arrived at reality as such? Entrance into the forms of the stage of those who arrive at reality, because of the nature of the triply blissful abode of first-hand ultimate knowledge inconceivably doing what people do, I call it meditation that has arrived at reality as such. So it is said. Meditation examining meaning, meditation practiced by unsophisticates, meditation focused on reality as such, pure meditation arrived at reality as such. The form of the moon or sun, resembling the lotus hell. Bright like fire in the sky, the yogi practicing observes, and various signs as well, they lead to a cultic path causing a fall into the state of a listener. In the realm of a solitary victor. Having cleared all these away, when free of images, then the sons of multitudes of Buddhas of all lands, assembled, will rub one's head. A sign of arrival at reality as such. Then Mahamati, the great Bodhisattva, also said to the Blessed One, it is said by the Blessed One, Nirvana is Nirvana. To what, Blessed One, does Nirvana refer? The Blessed One said, when the influences of notions of thought, intellect, and cognitive consciousness storing impressions of independent existence from all consciousnesses do not take effect, that is called nirvana by all Buddhas, and by me as well, the actual realm of emptiness of inherent existence realized in nirvana. Furthermore, Mahamati, nirvana is a realm attained first-hand by ultimate knowledge, apart from existence and non-existence in the sense of eternity or annihilation. Why is it not eternal? It is void of imagination of particular and common characteristics, so it is not eternal. But then it is not annihilation, in that all the wise, past, future, and present, attain it first-hand, so it is not annihilation. Furthermore, Mahamati, great ultimate nirvana is not destruction or death. If great ultimate nirvana were death, Mahamati, it would still be linked to birth. And if it were destruction, it would fall within the definition of the created. Hence, for this reason, Mahamati, great ultimate nirvana is not destruction, not death. Practitioners understand death has no escape. Furthermore, Mahamati, great ultimate nirvana is called nirvana because of involving no loss or gain, neither annihilation nor eternity, neither for one meaning nor for no meaning. Furthermore, Mahamati, the nirvana of listeners and solitary illuminates is from an unconventional understanding of particular and common characteristics, because of undistorted perception of objects, errant imagination does not go on. Hence their understanding of nirvana is therein. Furthermore, Mahamati, the characteristic of twofold nature is of two kinds. What are the two kinds? Due to immersion in verbal nature, and due to immersion in concrete nature. Of these, Mahamati, immersion in verbal nature proceeds from immersion in impressions of conceptual elaboration verbally projected over beginningless time. Immersion in concrete nature, then, Mahamati, proceeds from not realizing it is the content of what is perceived by one's own mind. Furthermore, Mahamati, bodhisattvas supported by two empowerments fall at the feet of the perfectly enlightened ones, the able ones who have arrived at reality as such, to ask questions. By what two empowerments are they supported? By the empowerment of complete attainment of concentration, and the empowerment of direct consecration in the presence of all bodies. In the first stage, Mahamati, great bodhisattvas supported by enlightened power attain a concentration of the essence of enlightenment called splendor of the great vehicle. As soon as they have attained the concentration of the essence of enlightenment called splendor of the great vehicle, the saints who have arrived at reality, the perfectly enlightened ones in the worlds of the 10 directions, appear before them and empower them by a demonstration of speech from the mouths of all bodies. As of the Great Awakening being Vajrasattva, Mahamati, and of other Great Awakening beings endowed with similar qualities, in the same way do great bodhisattvas acquire the empowerment of complete attainment of concentration in this stage. When the great bodhisattva is in the clouds of teaching stage of awakening, following upon a foundation of good accumulated over 100,000 eons, sitting in a seat enshrined in a huge lotus, surrounded by similar great bodhisattvas, wearing a crown adorned with all kinds of jewels, then multitudes of the victorious, like lotuses in golden moonbeams, come from the worlds of the 10 directions and with a hand from every body anoint the head of the great bodhisattva, sitting in the seat enshrined in the lotus, like a ruling emperor. That bodhisattva, and those bodhisattvas, are said to be supported by the empowerment of consecration by hand. These are the 2 empowerments of great people living for enlightenment, supported by which empowerments great bodhisattvas look upon the faces of all Buddhas. The able ones who arrive at reality as such, the perfectly enlightened ones, are not to be seen elsewhere. Furthermore, Mahamati, whatever becomes clear to great bodhisattvas by forms of instruction in the mystic powers of concentration, that occurs to those supported by the 2 empowerments of all Buddhas. If, Mahamati, intelligence became clear to great bodhisattvas without empowerment, then intelligence would become clear even to ignorant people. Why? Because they are not supported by empowerment. Even grasses, shrubs, trees, and mountains, Mahamati, as well as the various musical instruments, and cities, dwellings, houses, mansions, chairs, and public squares are made to speak out by empowerment through the intervention of those who have reached reality as such. How much more, Mahamati, animate beings? Even the mute, blind, and deaf are freed from their problems. Such, Mahamati, is the sort of great virtue in the empowerment of those who reach reality as such. Mahamati then said, "Why, blessed one, do the able who have reached reality as such, the perfectly enlightened, perform consecration empowerment in another stage, as well as at the time of the empowerment of great bodhisattvas by complete attainment of concentration?" The blessed one said, "For deliverance from the afflictions of destructive doings by not falling into the stage of listeners' meditation and by first-hand understanding of the stage of those who arrive at reality as such, and for increasing understanding of principles attained. For this reason, Mahamati, the able who arrive at reality as such, the perfectly enlightened, support great bodhisattvas with empowerment. Great bodhisattvas who have not been empowered, Mahamati, fallen into the destructive mentality of followers of false cults, won't realize perfect enlightenment. Hence, for that reason, great bodhisattvas are supported by the able who have arrived at reality as such, the perfectly enlightened Buddhas. So it is said. The empowerment of the lords of humans is purified by vows, beginning with consecration and concentration from the 1st to the 10th. Then Mahamati, the great bodhisattva, also said this to the Blessed One: conditional origination taught by the Blessed One is a statement made for a reason, not an argument to establish the nature of your own doctrine. Religious leaders and philosophers too, Blessed One, describe origination for a reason, namely the origins of things depend upon a creator, God, supreme being, time, or atoms. Though the origin of things is described by the Blessed One in a different analysis of conditions, this does not come to a different conclusion. For the Blessed One and religious leaders and philosophers too describe origination as real and unreal, the destruction of all things after having come to be, due to conditions. Even in what has been said by the Blessed One, that psychological complexes are conditioned by ignorance and so on, up to old age and death, this is a statement of a doctrine of no cause described by the Blessed One, not a doctrine of cause. If this is, so is this applies to phenomena that are established simultaneously. Not to phenomena established in relative succession. But the statement of the religious is superior, not this one of yours. Why? Because the cause of the religious produces effect that does not occur conditionally, whereas your cause, Blessed One, is relative to effect, and effect is relative to cause. The confusion of cause and condition thus results in mutual failure to establish one another. It is causelessness of the world, Blessed One, that is expressed by saying, if this is, so is this. The Blessed One said, mine is not a doctrine of no cause, nor does it imply confusion of cause and condition by saying if this is, so is this, because of the non-existence of grasped and grasper, due to the realization that they are contents of what is perceived by the subjective mind. Those who are engrossed in the grasped and the grasper do not realize they are only percepts of the subjective mind in terms of absence of existence of external independent objects. This fault results for them, but not for me in making the statement of conditional causality. Mahamati also said, surely, Blessed One, since speech actually exists, all things exist. If, Blessed One, there were no things, there would be no talk. But talk does take place. So because of the actual existence of speech, all things exist. The Blessed One said, talk is made, Mahamati, even of things that don't really exist. Talk of rabbit horn, turtle hair, children of a baron, women, and so on, is seen in the world. They are neither existent nor non-existent, yet they are spoken of. What you said, Mahamati, that all things exist because of the actual existence of speech, that doctrine fails. Speech is not practiced in all Buddha lands, either, Mahamati. Speech, Mahamati, is something created. In a certain Buddha land, Mahamati, the teaching is expounded by a steady gaze, in another, by gestures, in another, by frowning, in another, by movement of the eyes, in another, by the mouth, in another, by yawning, in another, by the sound of a cough, in another, by remembrance of lands, in another, by trembling. As in the sleepless world scented with perfume, the Buddha land of Samantabhadra, they